Hey everybody, my name is Daryl Buckle. I am one of the pastors at Erin Village Alliance Church. I would like to welcome you to the August long weekend here in Canada. This weekend is our summer church camping weekend at Erin Village and at Crossings Community Church in Acton. And so we're not where we would normally be on Sunday, and so we decided it would be fun to record a message here in beautiful Point Farms on the shores of Lake Huron. It's a good time, and we wish you could be here, but you're not, so you have to watch online. I'm sitting at a picnic table along one of the old farm trails here at the provincial park, and everybody else is in the campsite having fun and having lunch and all that kind of stuff, so I can't wait to join them. But first, for you guys, I hope that you'll enjoy this message that you see online. Maybe share it with some friends, but here we go. How's your summer going? Mine's going fantastic. Busy, great. What have you got planned? How about a road trip? I love a good road trip. Now, I've been on both kinds, good and the bad, but I love a good road trip, and I know you all know the difference between a good one and a bad one. Many years ago, a pile of friends and I piled in a van and drove to Lafayette, Georgia to explore this cave system that would blow your mind. There were underground rivers. There was rooms the size of football fields underground. That was a good road trip. My wife and I drove from Edmonton to the North Shore through the mountains in Canada to see some friends. That was a fantastic road trip. I've been on the other kind too. Okay, like when Luana and I drove to Southern Ontario, from Southern Ontario to Winnipeg in a cube van. And so the seats didn't tip back. There was no air conditioning. And at one point we were spent. So we stopped at the side of the road just to have like 20 minutes of shut-eye. I tell you, there's nothing worse than waking up and seeing a steering wheel in front of you. I was sure that I had killed us all. Despite the leg cramps, the body odor, the rest stop toilets, man, I love going on road trips, provided I can accomplish a few important things on road trips. One of them, stopping for lunch. You guys know it, and I know it. When you go on a road trip, you have to stop at Weber's. Like, you're barely, onto the drive. You have to stop at Weber's, or I'm a fan of Superburger. May he rest in peace. In Shelburne, Superburgers are no longer with us. Now my new favorite's Bob Evans in the States. I love Bob Evans. Anyways, second thing, there has to be good company. I thought about taking Wesley and Paul on this summer's road trip, but with all of my wife's luggage, guys, you understand, there's no room. So sorry about that. But good company is essential for a good road trip. The third thing is driving music. Are you with me? There is nothing like the power of music to instantly change your mood and put joy in your step, even if you're driving through, like, the prairies of Canada. I'm one of those people who has a soundtrack for almost everything, from house cleaning to soccer matches to road trips. I'll often actually decide what kind of Sunday morning is going to be by what songs are playing on the radio on my drive to church. So today's message is actually called Driving Music, because I want you to think about this question. Wherever you are watching this, listen to this in the car, or if you're at home, what's it going to take for you to enjoy this thing? What's it going to take for you to enjoy this trip? Have you ever met somebody who is obviously not enjoying the trip? Yeah, you know exactly what I'm talking about. That guy on the bus, clearly not enjoying things. Maybe a coworker who doesn't do mornings. Maybe your teenage daughter when you ask her to do the dishes. But you can see it on their face that they're not enjoying it. You can deduce it by the way they bite your head off when you brush up against them. But at least some of the time, the person that you know who's really not enjoying life is struggling because life for them is, well, it's really not enjoyable. Maybe far less like a road trip, and maybe more what they describe as a roller coaster. And maybe that's a bad example because some of you love roller coasters and hate road trips, but I'll let you pick the metaphor. But what I want to ask you is, how long and life-sucking and fast or hair-rising has the road been for you? And no matter how, your life has been going, what's it going to take for things to turn around? What's it going to take for you to enjoy this thing, your life? There's an expression that people sometimes say anytime a kid says something that is ironic or surprising or profound, they say out of the mouths of babes. I don't know if you knew this, but that is actually taken from Psalm 8, verse 2. It says, "From the lips of children and infants you have ordained praise." From the lips of children and infants. Actually, it's true of you and I too. Um, if you read through the Old Testament, you'll read about specific times when praise or when celebration was commanded by God. Praise or celebration. What would you do in your life right now for whatever you're going through if all of a sudden God says, "Hey, listen, I want you to lighten up. I want you to put a smile on your face. I want you to be happy." Would that be tough, or would it be easy? I want to talk about for just a couple minutes about the 7 yearly feasts when God's people would gather together and whip up a party. They would set up tents. Actually, one of the feasts, they would live in tents, kind of like what we are right now. They would fire up the barbecue. They would roll out the barrel. They would plug in their amps, and they were commanded to come together and to celebrate. Now, the rest of the time during the year, though, they were supposed to mope. Okay, of course that's not true. They weren't supposed to mope, but there is a time and a place for everything. But right now I want to talk to you about and read to you the story of one of the times when they were told they have to celebrate. So take a minute, grab your Bible, grab your smartphone, or whatever you have near you that'll help you follow along. This is from the book of Nehemiah. Nehemiah chapter 8 takes place right after the Jews had been rebuilding the wall surrounding their community, surrounding Jerusalem. It had finally been finished. They had been through the season where they had been conquered and exiled from their homeland. They had been enslaved for 70 years. Times were not good. And finally, having the borders opened and the freedom granted for them to come home, they came home and they found it a mess. So they rebuilt their lives, their markets, their homes, and the wall around the city. And then Nehemiah the governor and Ezra the priest and the scribe and the Levites who were instructing the people said to them, "Listen, this day is sacred to the Lord your God. Do not mourn or weep." For all the people had been weeping as they listened to the words of the law. Nehemiah said, "Go and enjoy choice food and sweet drinks, and send some to those who have nothing prepared. This day is sacred to the Lord. Do not grieve, for the joy of the Lord is your strength." So the Levites, it says, actually calmed all the people. They said, "Lighten up, be still, for this is a sacred day. Do not grieve." And then all the people went away to eat and to drink, to share portions of food with those who had nothing prepared. It's a great day for building community and celebrating together. And they said, "Celebrate with great joy," because they now understood the words that had been made known to them. I want to ask that question again. What's it going to take for you to enjoy this trip? What's it going to take for your life to turn from joy into happiness, from sadness into joy, from discouragement and the sense of defeat into a sense of contentedness and celebration? Proverbs 15:15 says, "For the discouraged every day brings trouble." Oh, is that how you feel? Can you relate to that? It says, "But for the happy heart, life is a continual feast." I woke up this morning and had my morning coffee, and I was strolling from campsite to campsite, just saying hey to people. And somebody pulls us over to the picnic table. She says, "Daryl, we went to the bakery this morning." That's what this verse is talking about. What if your life was a continual feast? A surprise trip to the bakery when you're sipping on your morning coffee. That's the good stuff. That's right there. Have you ever had a day when things were going so bad that you thought, "Man, what's next? What's next? What's it going to take for the next shoe to drop?" Maybe you've gone through weeks, months, or years feeling that way. You know that for the discouraged, every day brings trouble. You know that maybe like Proverbs 17:22, "A happy heart is good medicine, and a cheerful mind works healing, but a broken spirit dries up the bones." I know you felt that. Some of you, that's exactly how you feel. A broken spirit dries up the bones. I could go on with verses like this, but the truth is most of us, we want to be happy. We want to spend our time pursuing happiness, defending happiness, but we can't. We're discouraged and we battle this. Most of us want to be happy, but we haven't figured out whether how God fits into this desire to be happy. Most of us, when we go through those experiences, when the bottom drops out, when life throws you a curveball and you're like, "God, what, don't you want me to be happy? What's going on here, God?" There's a statement that some followers of Christ have put their flag on. It's an idea that they've sort of tried to summarize what this life is all about. And it simply says this. Maybe you've heard this before. It says, the chief end of man is to glorify God and enjoy him forever. Do you believe that? Do you believe that the chief end of man, the purpose of your life, is to glorify God and to enjoy him forever? That last idea, I really like that. Did you know that God wants you to enjoy your life with him? Is that a surprise to you that God's plan for you is to enjoy your life? Jesus said, I've taught all of this stuff to you, all of my teachings, my story, this narrative that is my life, so that my joy may be in you and that your joy may be complete. Now I'm going to take a risk here. For those of you church types and Christian types, I'm going to take a risk and ask, have you ever seen the Jesus film? I'm kind of embarrassed to ask. For those of you who don't know, the Jesus film is a dramatic retelling of the life of Christ. It's made right around the time that I was made, actually, so it's starting to look a little dated if you see it. You can see the grays in my new beard and stuff like that. If you watch it, you might think, man, that's not just dated, Daryl, that's downright cheesy. Well, I don't want to start a fight over the Jesus film, so those of you who love the Jesus film, just relax. This is my point here. If you watch the Jesus film, the depiction of Jesus in that film is a serious and somber Jesus, like serious and somber Jesus. And though I can't prove it, I wonder sometimes that every once in a while, when I run into a grumpy old Christian killjoy, you know who I'm talking about, and if that's you, I'm sorry. But every once in a while, when I run into them, I think, man, that person must have seen the Jesus film. That person must have taken their cue on what Jesus is like from the Jesus film. Guys, listen to me. Jesus was literally filled with joy. He wanted joy to consume his followers. That's the true Jesus. C.S. Lewis, who wrote the Narnia series, once wrote, if there lurks in modern man, in modern minds, the notion that to desire our own good and to earnestly hope for the enjoyment of it is a bad thing, I suggest that this notion is no part of the Christian faith. He says, indeed, if we consider the unblushing promises of reward, the staggering nature of the rewards promised in the Gospels, it would seem that the Lord finds our desires not too strong, but too weak. This is awesome. He said, we are half-hearted creatures, fooling around with drink and sex and ambition when infinite joy is offered us, like an ignorant child who wants to go on making mud pies in a slum because he cannot imagine what is meant by the offer of a holiday at sea. We are far too easily pleased. Folks, I love to read about the feasts in the Bible because they remind us that God wants us to celebrate all that he has done as a lifestyle, not as an occasional interruption when we let our hair down. Pardon the metaphor. As a lifestyle. Now, I'll tell you that that's easy to do when God does something specific for us or specific near us, right? I call those things special graces, like when God answers a prayer, when God saves you from a horrible car crash or something. How's it going? I love seeing people driving by on their bikes the trail that I'm sitting on. It's really fun. I wish you guys were here. It's easy to think about God's special graces and stuff like that when God saves us, for instance, when we get pulled over because we don't have our seatbelt on and the police officer lets us off. Like, those are good days. It's easy to celebrate God's little specific great graces that he gives us. But what about celebrating the stuff that we all take for granted, right? That you are fearfully and wonderfully made. When was the last time you thanked God for the way he made you? When was the last time you just celebrated life? My wife used to sing this song to my kids, and now Esther sings it to us. It's really adorable, and I'm going to sing it to you because I know you like it when I do adorable stuff live or on video. You can't make fun of me, incidentally, because if you do, you will have my 10-year-old daughter to answer for this. Here's the song. Ready? God made my fingers, and God made my toes. God made my knuckles, and God made my... God made, what's the next part? God made my hip bones, and God made my chin, and God made the shape that I am in. This is going to be really embarrassing if more people drive by, but I'm doing it anyways. God made me, God made me. I'm so glad that God made me. There's another verse, and I'm not going to stop because you need this, I can tell. God made my elbows, and God made my wrists. God made my lips so I can blow you a kiss. Imagine a 10-year-old doing this. God made my stomach, and God made my heart, and he covered me with skin so I wouldn't fall apart. Okay, it's a cute song, I know. I'm a little embarrassed, but it was super fun doing it anyways. Listen, do you still know how to celebrate life? Have you lost that? Do you still know how to celebrate life? Do you know how to celebrate friends by pulling the gang together and watching Without a Paddle? Or the sun by waking up to watch it rise? Or marshmallows by roasting them over the toaster? Or what about 80s hair bands by raising your goblet of rock in the air and letting out a metal yell? Like, whatever it is, do you still know how to do that? Thanksgiving and feasting is a practice. It takes practice. It's a lifestyle that, you really need to think about reviving in your own life. You need to have some more fun. Maybe you recognize that's exactly what's been missing in your life. And so I want to ask you, when did you get so serious? When did you get so serious? I promise you that if you learn to do this well, man, you're just going to have more fun and you're going to live life more fully. But it's more than just a plan. It's more than just having a party once in a while. It's something that has to happen from the heart. And so I want to just talk for a minute or two on those essential attitudes of a lifestyle of feasting. Maybe you know this verse. 1 Thessalonians 5 says, "Be joyful always. Pray continually, give thanks in all circumstances, for this is God's will for you." Do you know what God's will is for your life? Do you ever think, man, I know exactly what this is it. This is exactly God's will for your life. Be joyful always. You know what that means, right? It means that joy is a choice. It's a choice that you can make right now to have joy. It's also a discipline. Did you know that? It's a discipline that you have to work into your lifestyle each week. And you know what else? It's a commandment, Mr. Grouchy Pants. Yeah, be joyful always is a commandment. It's number 2, give thanks in all circumstances. It says, thanks is something that you give. It's one of those things that actually it's something that you give and the feelings follow. That's it. It's not just a feeling. It's something you have to give, and the more you give, the more you have. So give it a shot. Practice giving thanks in all circumstances. And thanks leads to contentment in all circumstances, it says. And I know this is a tough one. I will confess to you that I struggle with this one a lot. Giving thanks in all circumstances. God, really? Like, even my circumstances? Listen, I'll tell you that the difference that this has had in my life when I make sure to thank God for and fully enjoy what I have, instead of spiraling into the struggle I'm facing, spiraling into that sense of lack sometimes that I feel in my life because I've been sleeping on a futon for 6 months or whatever. This summer lets you and I give thanks in all circumstances. And while we're talking about the essential attitudes of a lifestyle of feasting, I do want to bring up the attitude of humility. Daryl, why did you add the attitude of humility to this list? Because I know it's not really in that verse, but I've seen the blessed start to think that they were entitled. Can I use that word, blessed? I don't know if you even think of yourself as blessed, but if life is going good, then I want you to ask yourself right now, why am I blessed? Why is life going so good? Why have I got it so good? Some people who go through those seasons, they think, well, it's because I am good, really. Life is so good because I'm good. I'm a nice guy. I don't steal bikes while kids are off chasing Pokemon. I'm blessed because I am good. Yeah, that's wrong, right? You're blessed because God is good. He is a loving Father who loves to give good gifts. So even if I decide to drift into a life of crime where I'm stealing bikes and other devious things, God will still be good and still be challenging me to respond with thankfulness when I experience undeserved blessing. And we do all the time experience undeserved blessing. The point is this: as you turn your attention or your focus to the blessings around you in this indescribable creation, the amazing life that you're living on a daily basis, put a guard on your heart, or else you might think somehow that you have earned this life that you're enjoying so much, and you forget about God's faithfulness to you. So those are some of the essential attitudes of a lifestyle of feasting. Daryl, I've been to some pretty good parties, but what does a life of feasting actually look like? All right, I'm glad you asked. Write this down. Some of you need to make notes here. I can't tell you exactly how to celebrate life this summer. That's going to be a very personalized thing, but I will give you some ideas, maybe ways that you can creatively enjoy life while glorifying God. And the first is to celebrate creation, of course, as I sit here at Point Farms here. When the kids were younger, there was a field cancellation on soccer night, and so I took my kids on what I like to call an adventure. I said, you want to go on an adventure? And they're like, yes, let's go on an adventure. So after ice cream, we drove to the backwoods kind of Lake Superior, and the kids are like, wow, look at that. And so I slam on the brakes, and we stop the car at the side of the road, and there is a beautiful lake, an inlet of Lake Superior, actually. And my wife's like, oh, Daryl, we're not dressed for this. The kids are going to get wet. But it's too late because we had already hopped out of the car, and we're, wading and stomping into the water. And then, of course, you have to decide to grab some stones and put on some daddy magic. I actually made stones bounce on the water. I know, right? It's pretty okay. It sounds very lame, actually, but when your kids are small, it's like daddy magic, and I'm a hero, and so I show them how to skip stones. I know, when my kids were young, I was really cool, and I'm not anymore. But folks, celebrate creation. Eat some spruce buds or dandelions. Don't just drive by a waterfall. Pull over and put your head in the waterfall. Unless it's a really big waterfall, and then don't do that. But, you just experience, enter creation, and be thankful. Dive in, folks. Make a list of the wonders of creation that you see this summer. Birders do it. They make a list of the birds that they've seen. Mountaineers do it. They record the summits that they summit. You should do that. Make a list of the wonders of creation that you've seen until it sounds like a Johnny Cash song of all the places that you have been. Why not celebrate creation? Second thing, how about celebrate the senses? Here's a challenge for you. I want to challenge you to give yourself 5 feasts this summer. The feasts of the senses, one for each sense. Any idea of what a feast for the eyes might look like? I tell my wife that she is a feast for my eyes. But what about fireworks? What about climbing a tree or a fire tower just to watch a different view? Why don't you go to an art gallery or wake up to see the sunrise, like I said earlier? Find a feast for your eyes this summer and record it somehow. What about a feast for your ears? Go to the symphony. Better yet, go to a punk rock show or whatever floats your boat, but do something, a feast for your ears. What about a feast for your nose? Stop and smell the roses. What does that look like in downtown Erin? Of course, there's the chocolatier, or go to the bakery in Southampton and just stand there and don't buy anything. Just take a whiff of the incredible smell. What about a feast for your taste buds? When was the last time you had a truly gourmet dinner? I don't know, maybe it's been too long. A truly gourmet dinner. When was the last time you stopped for a hot dog outside Union Station? It's not gourmet, but man, I missed it when I was living in Thunder Bay. So what about the Burger's Priest? I hear that place is incredible. Have a feast for your taste buds. And what about, finally, a feast for your touch senses? You ever been to a hot springs? Yeah, I don't know of a hot springs near here either. So just, borrow your neighbor's hot tub and tell them you're going to come over. What about a hot tub? What about a massage or a manicure? What about a good old fashioned high five? Decide you're not going to shake hands for the next week. Instead, you're going to give high fives. Folks, the key to this is an attitude of gratitude. You got to turn your heart to God as the creator of all, the Lord of heaven and earth. Here's another idea. Why don't you this summer celebrate the joy of giving? It was Jesus who said it's more blessed to give than to receive. You want to live a blessed life? Practice giving. So how do you celebrate the joy of giving to the glory of God? Pray for somebody. That's the best thing you can do for somebody, no matter what struggle they're going through. Whenever you meet somebody who describes a lack in their life of any kind, you say, I'm going to pray for you about that. Do something nice for someone, not just nice, lavish. Do something lavish for someone. You know that the Bible actually uses in Greek, it's the origin of the word for hilarious. Yeah, I love that. Think about that. Give somebody something so big, so good, so creative that just thinking about it makes you smile, that it makes you kind of laugh inside. In fact, why not give someone a laugh? Take them out to a comedy or a movie night, or tell somebody a stupid joke. Do something to change the countenance on their face, because then we're starting to get closer to the way God gives for us. How about a random act of senseless kindness for somebody? When is the last time you just did something random for a stranger, an act of kindness? What about a guerrilla drive-through? You know what a guerrilla drive-through is? It's a cool name for when you decide to pay it forward and say, hey, I want to get the next guy's bill too. Pay for the guy behind you, no matter what it is that they could have ordered the lasagna or the lobster, whatever it is. Pay for the guy behind you too. It's more blessed to give than to receive. And you know, it's crazy fun. And some of you look like you need some fun this summer. Listen, I really wanted to talk to you guys today about what it's going to take for you to enjoy this thing, this life, this journey. And it's not irrelevant and it's not inappropriate. This is so important. It's part of what your life is about. It's God's will for your life, right? This is God's will for your life. So this summer, devote yourself to glorifying God by receiving the best of his creation, his generous love for you with joy, with thanksgiving. I'm telling you to live it up. I'm telling you to suck the marrow out of life. But don't just be a consumer of God's provision. Be a funnel for God's creation, his blessing, his provision in your life. Find somebody you know who could really use some encouragement and make them your project. So that's your homework, okay? That's your homework for the summer. Who are you going to bring with you into the feast and into this kind of faith, the kind of faith that's full of joy, full of life? Invite someone to join you in this adventure. All right, you ready? Let's say grace, God, for what we are about to receive. We are so thankful, God, because you're so good. And this life is full of indescribable fun. This summer, God, we want to soak in it, but not just to soak in it, and certainly not, God, without giving you the credit. And not, God, without bringing somebody along who has never heard about your amazing love for us. We do that, God, so that we can live the life you intended for us as followers of you. Thanks, God, for your goodness. I'm going to go have some fun now. Amen. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Make sure if you watch this that you share it. The other thing you can do is click on the give link. If somebody's like, hey, it's Sunday, and it wouldn't be the same if I didn't make a donation. It's up there. If you're if you're not from Erin, you're from Crossings, make sure you connect. I know you guys can give online too. Make sure that if you're following this, give a gift to support the online presence, but also to support the incredible ministries that your local church has. Thanks for joining us. Have a good time, guys. Have a good weekend. Bye-bye.